Hello and welcome back on another lesson on Getting a Started series on Expivi. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how you can set up pricing on your attributes, rearrange them to have a better guiding on your personalization of your products, and also give you a quick overview on business rules on how you can set up different flow charts on how the options are represented and what you can actually do with the business rules. In the previous lessons, we have set up a product, the spot, where you can select from the two different types and you can select between two different materials on this particular product. In this lesson, we are going to change the namings of these materials, assign some pricing to them, and also provide some complexity to how the options are actually represented. To do that, we are going back to our catalog, back to our product, to the configuration, and underneath here we have the attributes. Now, all of the variation attributes are actually automatically generated for us during the generation from the model tree or automatic generation during the import from the 3D model. And the attributes for the 3D or for the material groups, we have added them ourselves by adding a material group node under here and assigning a group to it. It gives us an overall representation of all of the different variations and attributes that we have in order to change the namings and change different options on each attribute. We can select the edit button, and from here we can change the name. So I'm going to change the name to a little better representation of my question, more understandable. Gonna rename this to pod type. I directly see that it's been renamed. Type 1, I'm gonna actually give it a name. So I'm gonna call this thin version. And type 2, I'm also editing it and calling it a fat version. So we have the fat pod and we have the thin pod. From every option, we also have the possibility to assign a pricing to the attribute itself. So from here, I can change two different pricings when each one of these attributes are selected. But before we do that, we are going to save the changes and we are going back to the basics. Inside the basic info, I can already set up a basic pricing. So every attribute would have an increase or decrease in the option, but we can have a basic pricing on the product itself. So the attributes wouldn't have the complete pricing of each attribute, but also just the increase and the decrease. In the basic pricing, I'm able to add like 50. So that would be the basic pricing of the product itself. I save the changes, and now I go back to the attributes, and I can change an increase or decrease to each option of the attributes. I can rate it to remain to 0, or I can add a -5. If you have selected the thin version, you can also add like 15 when this version is selected. So the price will be calculated based on the basic price plus the attribute price that has been selected. I can also rearrange my attributes. So if I want to have the fat version to be seen first and thin version second, I can rearrange them by dragging and dropping the option to where I want. I can do the same thing with all of the different questions that I have. So if I want the color to be selected first, or you want the color to be selected as last. And I'm going to save this now. So when we go to our web shop preview, now we have a basic version. The fat version was selected in the first, so it is being selected as first option. And then I have also the thin version, which would decrease €5 from the basic price. So VAT version would increase in 15. 50 was the base price plus 15, and then there is €5 less when I have the team version from the base price again, so 45. Using that way, I can select any number of attributes and have a complete pricing based on each attribute that has been selected. There are also more complex ways of doing the calculating of the pricing with the pricing tab, where you can set up different pricing for every SKU and for every component that is inside your product. But that is going to be for another lesson, since that is going to get a little more complex on top of that. So we have now set up the different namings, set up different pricing for every attribute. Another thing to take note on the attributes is that you can also set as default selected on each attribute. So imagine the VAT version is the first one in my scene, in my attributes, but I don't want the first one to be the default one that is selected. So if I want the team one to be selected while it is on the second level, I can set that option as the default selected option, so that the configurator, when it loads the attributes, would select the team version first, although it is the second in the list. So if when I go back and reload the product, it would have been selected the team version as the default, although the first one is VAT version. That's the basic attributes and how you can set up the attributes for your products. They are all generated actually automatically, except for the material group. And you can change the namings and the pricing on each attribute inside here. One last step that we have in our configuration are the business rules. The business rules allow you to create flowchart to create a guided selling for your customers. It allows you to create a flowchart where you can say when some option is selected, you want to change something else, or you want to limit the options based on how your product is sold. To do that, we are going to rules. And inside here, we add a rule. We can name it as we desire. So we are going to have a limitation of the options for that. Create. This is a visual rule designer that we have for our options. And the way that it works is that everything starts from a broadcast, then it goes to the checks, then it goes to the actions. So again, from left to right, those are the things that you need to take to create your flowchart. From the broadcast, it is important to know that when you want to do a check, you need the right broadcast for it. So when an option is changed, I have two checks for the option. One is to check whether that option is selected or whether an option is generally active or not. I will give you explanation between the difference between those two in a second. Then there is the option for the question, for example. So when a question is changed, that is when a question is being opened or closed. If you want to take an action on that. Steps, material groups change, so material is changed, and other things that you can do. In this example, we are going to create a rule for an option when the option is changed. So imagine when our product is loaded, and we have two different colors that we can select from. But imagine that one of these colors, or the color selection, would not be possible or not available when you have the VAT version. So imagine if you have the VAT version only available in one color, and you don't want to give the options to the customers to also select from the colors. In order to do that, I'm going to the broadcast. I select the option, so it gives me a broadcasting when an option is changed. It gives me also an outway. And I add that to a check. So I want to check which option it is. So from the checks, I select the option, which is the check option. When I left mouse click on the check option, it opens the properties of that node. And inside here, I can add the checks that I want to take. So I want to check when the VAT version is selected. I can have multiple checks in here and multiple conditions for each check. But right now, we want to do only one check. So when an option is changed, I want to check whether the option that has been changed is the VAT version. And from here, there is a yes and no. So based on each yes and no, I can do another check, or I can take an action. As we said, what we want to do is that when the fat version is selected, we want to hide the material selection, the color selection, and we want to set the color to a specific color that we only have available. So in order to do that, I'm going to the action, going to the visibility, and hide question. So from my flowchart, option change, check option, is it that option? Yes. I select that node and connect it to the hide question. Again, left mouse click on the hide question, opens its properties. It allows me to select the option that I want to hide, or the question I want to hide. So I'm going to hide the color. And then I also want to take another action, and that action is select a material that I only have available when the fat version is selected. So when yes, I'm going to select the color one. So the customer in here, what I'm doing is that, imagine you are on the team version, you have the option to select from both color 1 and color 2. But when the fat version is selected, I want to hide this color, but I also want to reset the color to color 1, because that is the only color that I have available. So I'm going to set the material to color 1 when that option is selected. I'm also doing another check, and this is when the team version is selected. So when my let us actually first do this one. So this is my flowchart. When something is checked, I check which option it is. Is it the VAT version? Yes. In that case, hide the question for the color and set the default color for the color material group to the color 1. When I save this and go to my web shop, default one is thin, that's selected, and we'll select the fat version. We can see that fat version removes the color selection and also sets the material to color 1. So even when on the thin, and now this is what we also want to do. So when we have gone to the VAT version, we have hide, or we have make it hidden, the color question. So when we go back, we actually want to view the color selection again. In order to do that, we are going to add a second check, connect our option change to that second check, and add a check, see if thin is selected, and if it is that the case, then we go to the action, visibility, and we want to show the question again. So we show the question, is the thin version selected? Yes. Show the question of color again. Save changes. And just like that, we have created a complete flowchart to limit the options based on 2 versions that we have. So when I'm selecting the VAT version, I don't have any option to select the colors. I select the thin option again, it represented back again, I can select between the 2 different colors. Back to the VAT again, removes it and resets the color to color 1, the only option that I have available on the VAT version. So earlier, we also said that there are different options for the checks. We have the option where we check which option it is being selected, but we also have the active option. So what's the difference between the active option and check option? The check option checks only the option that has been selected at that moment. So when I select the light thin version, it only checks on that. The active option checks whether the option is generally being selected or not. So it doesn't matter which option I'm changing at the moment. Every time I change an option, it checks whether an option is active or not. So those are the 2 main differences between those 2. And it is very important to take note when you are creating a rule to have the right broadcast to the right check along with it. So I cannot select actually an option when I have an option change. I cannot connect that to a question check. I need a question change for a question check. And that is basically a complete overview of all of the steps that are required to create a complete configuration with a complete selection on the different variations, different material groups, and also complex rules without a single line of code. I hope you have enjoyed these lessons, and until next time, thank you very much.